regular meeting, 5:30 p.m. Monday, October 13th, 2025, in City Hall Council Chambers. Can everybody rise, say the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We have no changes or additions to the agenda. Okay, we have a motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. On to public hearing, proposed assessment for 27th Street improvement engineering.
To open public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have an open and we have a motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries presentation.
Good evening, everybody. This is a public hearing for proposed assessment on 27th Street improvement. Should council concur with the special assessment that's presented during the 27th Street improvement assessment hearing, they may do so by adopting the corresponding resolution in Exhibit 1-1. The proposed assessment rule is shown in Exhibit 1-2. The recommended term for the proposed assessment is 4% over 15 years. Staff recommends that council pass the resolution in Exhibit 1-1 adopting the special assessment for 27th Street paving improvement.
Any testimony?
Motion closed.
We have a motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Motion to close. Okay, we got action on there.
I make a motion to pass the resolution in Exhibit 1-1 adopting the special assessment for 27th Street paving improvements.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. On to public hearing, residential property tax abatement, Dave Rowan's construction.
Alright.
Move to open public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is passed. Hearing presentation.
Alright, thank you, Mayor. This item is a public hearing on a residential property tax abatement request. Exhibit 1A is a copy of the City of Worthington Residential Property Tax Abatement Program application submitted by Juanita Briones on behalf of J. Briones Construction. The applicant is seeking approval of tax abatement for the construction of 2 townhomes on Sutherland Drive. Staff has reviewed the application, concluded it meets all the parameters of the program guidelines, and is therefore recommending approval. To comply with state statutes regarding tax abatement, a public hearing has been scheduled tonight to allow for public comment on the proposed abatement. Should council concur with staff's recommendation, it may do so by adopting the resolution provided in Exhibit 1B after the completion of the public hearing.
Okay. Any testimonies?
Move to close.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded to close the hearing. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Action on the hearing.
Make a motion to adopt a resolution in Exhibit 1B. Second.
We have a motion and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. On to public hearing, residential property tax abatement, Dan Wagner Construction.
Move to open public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to open the hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Hearing presentation.
Thank you. Exhibit 2A is a copy of the property tax abatement program application submitted by Dan Wagner. The applicant is seeking approval of tax abatement for the construction of a duplex on Sterling Avenue. Staff's reviewed the application and concluded it meets all the parameters of the program guidelines. Should council concur with staff's recommendation, they do so by adopting the resolution in Exhibit 2B after the completion of the public hearing.
Any testimony?
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
Move to adopt, resolution in Exhibit B.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion 2nd, 2025. Minutes from boards and commissions, planning commission meeting minutes of October 7th, 2025, 7075. We have Park and Recreation Advisory Board meeting minutes of September 24th, 2025. Water Light Commission meeting minutes of September 15th, 2025. Special Planning Commission meeting minutes of September 15th, 2025. Heron Lake Watershed Board meeting minutes of August 20th, 2025. We have 4 of the Worthington Public Arts Commission meeting minutes, one from May 13th, 2025, one from April 15th, 2025, one from March 11th, 2025, and one from February 11th, 2025, and bills payable. Motion to
Move to
accept.
approve consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. On to administration.
All right, the first case item is City of Worthington Health Insurance Provider for 2026, our recommendation. The commitment to our current health insurance carrier, Public Employees Insurance Program, otherwise known as PEEP, expires at the end of this year. Our insurance broker, National Insurance Services, issued requests for proposals on our behalf. They received 7 responses, including from PEEP and Blue Cross Blue Shield. PEEP's increase in rates for 2026 was only 0.2%. However, they now will require a 4-year commitment in place of their previous 2-year commitment. While their opt-out provision during the 4-year term was lowered from an annual increase of 50% to annual increases of 20%, we could be subject up to a 19.9% increase in years 2 through 4. Blue Cross Blue Shield presented an attractive proposal. Their 2026 rates are 13.8% lower than our current 2025 rates for similar coverage through PEEP. The one difference with Blue Cross is that the total amount of annual out-of-pocket is $300 more than PEEP. Blue Cross also offers a much more attractive out-of-network and referral options. Blue Cross proposed rates represent a total decrease in the employer's share of annual health insurance premiums of $184,961 compared to our current 2025 rates, and do not require more than a 1-year commitment. I just want to comment that savings of almost $185,000 is not entirely attributed to our levy, because it includes non-levy funds such as public utilities and other employees that are not included in our levy. Last year, the Compensation Committee recommended increasing an employer's health savings account annual contribution from $750 for single and $1,500 for single plus one in families to $1,800 for all. Council approved the recommendation and it was implemented in our current year. Compensation Committee met last week. Their recommendation is to contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield for health insurance in 2026 and to increase the employer's annual contribution to employees' HSA from $1,800 to $2,100 to make up for the additional $300 maximum out-of-pocket exposure. Doing so will result in reducing that overall savings to $162,461, which is still an 11.2% decrease in the employer health insurance costs in 2026 compared to 2025. Council is requested to approve the 2026 employee health insurance agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield and increase the employer's contribution to health savings account to $2,100 and authorize execution of agreements by the city administrator, mayor, and clerk.
Yes, Amy.
Did you have time, or did Lori have time to look through and make sure that it was like comparable to the others?
Yes, yeah, it is. The only difference is that maximum out of pocket, which is $300 more.
Do they have a drug plan for employees too, or is that included?
That's included as the prescription?
Yeah.
Yes, that's included in their
motion to approve Blue Cross Blue Shield and the increase contribution to employees HSA to $2,100.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried.
Next item is appointment of the fire chief. City's personnel policy for firefighters and standard operating guidelines for our fire department. Note that city council shall appoint a person fully qualified to serve as the fire chief, taking into account the recommendation of the department personnel, fire department personnel. This is done annually, as you recall. Members of the fire department met on September 30th. They have forwarded the recommendation to reappoint current Chief Trent DeGroat again in 2026. Chief shall have general supervision of the department at all times and have control over all apparatus, equipment, and supplies, and command over all persons who are employees of the department. Chief reports to the city administrator. The fire department, along with the city administrator, recommend all current officers be reappointed to their positions, including Brian Spittle as the first assistant chief, Corey Greenway as the second assistant chief, and Dayton Williamson as the secretary. I just want to note that Mr. DeGroat contacted me a short time ago, and his title preparing a farm truck that had some urgency, otherwise would have been with us tonight. Administration recommends council appoint Trent DeGroat to serve as the fire chief in 2026.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried.
Next item is Newcastle Townhomes Limited Partner Interest Transfer Assignment. Newcastle Townhomes was developed using the low-income housing tax credit program established by the federal government. In this program, private investors receive tax credits for the 15-year compliance period. Standard practice is for the original limited partner investor to transfer or assign their interest to another entity once the 15-year tax credit expires. The existing limited partner investors National Equity Fund, NEF, they will transfer assign its limited partner interest to a new entity called Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership Limited Partners, LLC. The general partner of the housing partnership remains unchanged, along with their day-to-day operations and management. The city has two mortgages on this development. The first is a mortgage for $250,000 long-term deferred loan, which is described as likely forgivable if affordability is maintained through the low-income housing tax credit compliance and extended use period. Second mortgage is $20,000 and appears to be structured in the same manner as the $250,000 loan. Council has requested to authorize staff to prepare notifications to Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, USDA Rural Development, consenting to the transfer assignment. All existing land use restrictions and mortgages remain in place.
Mike?
Just a question, who makes the call on and monitors the affordability issue?
That would be through the Housing Finance Agency, that it complies with income restrictions or income boundaries which are adjusted on an annual basis, so
Throughout the period?
throughout the period.
So
Yes.
then they tell the city?
Yes.
That they're in compliance?
Yes.
So someone's monitoring this?
Yes.
Okay.
How long before the loans are determined?
Those are 40-year loans,
40-year, okay,
and they date back to 2010.
okay.
So 2050, the loans would reach their maturity. I wasn't able to actually find the original documents, so I'm going by what the housing partnership has told me at this point. And it's a 40-year, no interest deferred loan that is intended to be forgiven at the end of the loan period.
Unless they don't meet the.
unless they don't meet the income, requirements that continue to comply with the program.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, okay. Motion and second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Engineering?
Hello, again. My second item is for non-state aid street commercial driveway policy updates. City staff has reviewed the current driveway policy for non-state aid streets, which limits commercial driveway openings to maximum width of 32 feet with 10-foot flares on each side. Over the years, semi-heavy commercial businesses have requested wider driveway openings to better accommodate truck traffic and site operations. Staff is proposing an update to the policy to include an additional provision which may allow commercial and industrial businesses with heavy semi-truck or other oversized vehicle traffic to have driveway openings up to 50 feet in width with 10-foot maximum flares on each side upon approval of the city engineer. Staff is requesting that the city council approve the proposed update to the driveway policy for non-state aid streets for commercial driveways.
Chris?
Can you give us examples of what streets those would be?
Industrial street, I think, of where the Bedford is, there's a lot of semi-heavy traffics. They were currently limited to 32 feet with light flares. Also, where we're currently doing the service road and service drive, the tire shop is. Those areas are main, two areas that has requested before.
We have a number of state aid streets.
Correct.
in
And
Worthington.
that's not what I'm talking about. I'm
Right.
strictly, only on non-state aid roads.
On non-state aid?
Correct. I can't change the state aid, requirements, only the non-state aid part, only the city-owned, basically.
Okay.
Have we granted the 50-foot before as a variance?
No,
Or
we have not.
we've not-
Never have.
Have they requested, has it come before us?
Yeah, not to the council meeting, because that's, I mean, I can bring that up to council every time if someone requests and have you guys review and
You just
approve.
usually say no?
Yep,
Okay.
because that's what policy says, yep. But, sorry.
What is, the state aid maximum and minimum requirements, is there any?
There is, state aid requirement is for commercial, it's saying 32 feet, and residential streets are only 24 feet.
Okay.
And we allow up to 28 on residents.
Okay.
Mike?
So just a question, why do we even regulate the width of the driveways for these big trucking firms?
Because,
Some reason?
the turning movement is one of the biggest thing. When long semi truck is on the street to turn in and out to those 32 feet driveway, it kind of limits to, they say that's like the minimum maximum width of driveway for semi, not to intrude the lane next to it. And a lot of times state aid roads are more than 2 4-lane roads, so there's not incoming traffic towards you, it's with along traffic, so it's less dangerous on state aid roads, most of the state aid roads. But on residential or city streets are usually 2-lane roads that you gotta go over the center line.
So this is just a policy update.
Yes.
Right, it would still be, any request would still be reviewed by staff.
Correct.
And the, people requesting would have to be able to make their argument that they need a wider driveway. And really, a straight truck probably has no issue making those turns, but it'd be the longer than 53-foot tractor trailer would be the.
That's a longer grade area, a lot more too, that
Yeah.
they 3 foot long. That's the semi, so it's.
non-state aid street driveway policy update.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Community improvement.
Alright, next item, this is a conditional use permit request for a dispensary at 507 South Shore Drive. NB2A Investments LLC, or what will be known as Roy's Premium Cannabis, has requested a conditional use permit to allow for the operation of a cannabis dispensary at 507 South Shore Drive. Pursuant to State Code Chapter 155, Appendix E, Table 5, cannabis retail facilities are permitted by conditional use only in the B3 district, the zoning designation of the subject property. At its October 7th meeting, the City Planning Commission voted 3-1 to recommend approval of the requested conditional use permit with the following conditions. The first one, the business shall have no blinking, flashing, fluttering, or other lighting or signage that is inconsistent with surrounding businesses. Lighting and signage not visible from the exterior of the business shall not be subject to this requirement. The business shall have no digital signs. Security cameras shall adequately cover exterior areas of the business and must maintain compliance with applicable rules and statutes of the state of Minnesota. And number 4, and this one was not a staff recommended one, this was added by Planning Commission. The business shall have no freestanding or monument signs, only building signs are permitted. This 4th one really came from concern with some visibility from the field house in particular, if you read that in the minutes. If you follow along in your packet, you can see what they based their recommendation on. In the exhibits, you can see the zoning maps, pictures of the site, their tentative floor plan, and other applicable things the Planning Commission considered. Should council concur with the findings of the Planning Commission, they may approve the request by motion. Approval requires a majority vote, and any council member voting against the application must state their reasons for doing so for the record. Council action is requested.
Mike?
Well, in referring to number 5, any land use requests the surrounding zoning and land uses should be considered to reduce land use conflicts. And to that, this is not the place as close as it is to the field house. And concerning the field house, I don't understand why that's not treated the same as a school district, as an athletic field. I see one reason given in there was, well, it's a pay-to-play place. Well, do we treat private schools? They pay to learn. So are private schools in the buffer zone?
Yeah, schools are explicitly stated in the state statute.
Okay, but you have the pay to play as one of the reasons.
Yeah, so statute says attractions within public parks regularly used by minors, including playgrounds and athletic fields. Now, could this maybe be considered a bit of a gray area? Possibly. You know, if you ever went to court over it, I have no idea what a judge would decide on how that's defined in statute, and I would hope we're not the ones to find out. But being that it's not necessarily a dedicated athletic field, quite like, say, Trojan Field or Bus Fields, you've got a soccer complex where it's primarily football and track. That's why we have not considered this to be included with that buffer at this time.
So could that building, back when we were setting up the zoning, could we have put special consideration for that building as buffer zone?
Possibly.
You know, in addition to the field house, we've got at least 2 parks that are within shouting distance of this place. You have, you know, our main trail system that goes around the lake, and also will also go underneath the railroad tracks. I just can't vote for this one, because of the surrounding land use. So, okay.
Chris?
Either way.
It's fine, go ahead.
I agree with you, Mike. The JBS Fieldhouse, my 5-year-old grandson was that's not unusual to have young people en masse in that building. They played T-ball there this summer when the weather was rainy. The high school kids go in and play football and baseball and softball and all the sports in there. They practice golf in there, so it is very much used as a school extension when the weather is not amazing. It's also used by adults, but it is definitely used by children as well. And I believe that buffer zone, that 250 buffer zone would, include JBS Fieldhouse.
It's 200 foot is what's in our
200.
ordinance, yeah.
Dennis?
Who owns the road, or that piece of property between JBS Fieldhouse and South Lake Street? Is that part of the
The
city?
city does.
City does.
So isn't that,
The old gas station site?
yeah,
The city owns that.
so your buffer of 200 feet, isn't it property line to property line?
That's correct.
Yeah,
So is it within
So-
200 feet then?
The road is not 200 feet.
well, like we said, we determined it not to be in that buffer. The field house is made up of a multitude of parcels. You know, I guess if we were going that route, I probably would seek an attorney's opinion on what we wanna call the field house property. Is we own everything from there all the way up the hill to the fire station, and I guess, you know, at what point do you stop calling it field house property? Especially when you've got kind of a weird grouping of parcels there.
So would that hinder any other development on that property? If it was related to younger kids, as far as, or even in addition to the JBS Fieldhouse?
No. Once you'd be there, you know, it'd certainly then grandfather in the cannabis business, but that wouldn't prohibit us from putting up, I guess, whatever that might be.
Chris?
So, I know you guys just, council just received the packet, when you have time afterwards, thumb through it. Just a word about the applicant, I was the lone dissenting, vote on the planning commission, for many of the reasons and I'll state here shortly, but, just a word, about the applicant and his business model and his, proposal, or business plan. Overall, with the applicants that we've had up to this point, it is the most sound and really, giving back to the community, owner, wanting to be a part of the community as a business. But he's presented himself very responsible. He's got a history of these type of businesses in South Dakota and is expanding in Minnesota. So my point being that the main thing isn't necessarily the business applicant himself or his business proposal. I think he's been very responsible and in regards to the other applicants that we've had up to this point, I would say he shines above those. But that being said, my main points for my no vote on the planning commission was the location and its distance from the JBS Fieldhouse and a park that is both areas that are heavily utilized by our youth and our families as a whole throughout the year. So it'd be to me, it'd be the main driver was the incompatibility with the adjacent land uses and then adverse impact on public health and safety, I think potentially is there also. So You can make an argument, I suppose, with, potential transportation hazards at that, traffic hazards at that corner. But having no traffic studies done, but I can see why he, would like that corner, cause it gets a lot of traffic, right? And the other applicants we've had also have chosen areas that they get high traffic in. So again, I can't support this location. We've gotten a number of input about we don't need any more dispensaries or anything like that. That's not necessarily the driving force in my no vote for this. It's just, I don't think that location is appropriate for this type of business.
I feel like the JBS Fieldhouse has contracts with District 518, which is students. I think if you probably looked at most of the people that frequent that space, I think it's gonna be minor. Even if they have to have a parent with them or pay to play. I just think that there's a lot of traffic for minors. Also, that walking path is considered a safe route to school. And of course, in the morning it wouldn't matter because the business can't be open, but the visibility is still there. And I just feel like because of that, the bus traffic, it's a safe route to school. It's the main traffic way to Prairie. There's really not another great way that people go to get back and forth. And there's just 2 parks within that block, and I agree. I think it's not the applicant, it's the space. I think the intended walking path will go on the side, right?
Correct.
Of JBS Fieldhouse, between where Roy's would be. And that's you going to the bus fields, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, I know that's not developed yet, but that's the plan, and I just don't think it's compatible, land use for that.
Dennis?
Can we table this until we seek legal counsel on that 200-foot buffer? As a property line?
You can set it aside to a future meeting.
Table to the next meeting.
And Mr. Hofer is here. Did you want to offer?
When you get to the public comment portion,
Okay.
I'd like to say something.
Well, there's no.
No, this is not, yeah.
This isn't a public
There is
hearing.
no
This
public
is
hearing.
informal,
Oh,
so we
okay.
don't have any.
Yeah.
If you want me to, I can.
If you would like to share your thoughts. Braden Holder, county attorney.
Yes, thank you, I'm sorry, I thought it was a public hearing. I can, see which way the wind is blowing, so I'll make my comments brief. I take my responsibility to protect the citizens of Nobles County and the citizens of Worthington the most serious out of all of my many responsibilities, and that's why I wanted to come to you here today. I come in opposition not just to this proposed cannabis dispensary, but to you approving any more cannabis dispensaries, which I realize is not the ultimate issue before you tonight. I have a contract with all of you to prosecute crimes in the city of Worthington. There is no scientifically accepted method for testing impairment when someone is under the influence of cannabis. It is not like alcohol. And so the way that we do that, the way that I prosecute cannabis DWI is after an accident. That's basically the only time that it happens. And that means that there's been an accident, because I don't have another way to show that the person was impaired. Every cannabis dispensary that you allow in the city of Worthington makes that job harder. It doesn't make it easier. State statute says that you have to have 1 active registration per 12,500 members, which citizens, which would be 2 for the city of Worthington. And my review of your registration shows you already have 4. And so you're already more than double the amount that you're required to have.
maximum setback actually allowed by law is 500 feet. So I was disappointed to see that Worthington's ordinance is only 200 feet, and that it's not as protected as it could be. If it was 500 feet, you know, I don't know what the attorney will say with regard to the property line. It's a good question. But if it had been 500 feet, it wouldn't even be an issue. That property is if it's 200 feet, it's barely. If it's 500 feet, it wouldn't even be an issue. Nobles County's ordinance is 500 feet. That's the maximum allowed by state statute. And so, realize it's not for you today, but I hope in the future you'll reconsider that position. I think 500 feet is plenty close for a cannabis dispensary to be to a school or a playground or an athletic field like JBS Fieldhouse. So I understand us being a border county, a tendency or perhaps a thought to make us a destination. Certainly Robb County appears to be leaning that way. For folks from South Dakota, folks from Iowa to come and get cannabis. But before you take that approach, I just ask you to consider the effect that has on public safety, especially impaired driving. It remains illegal in the state of Minnesota to possess cannabis in a lot of different ways. It's illegal to possess it in a package other than the package that you bought it from. It's illegal to open the package. It's very similar to alcohol. It's illegal to use it in a car. It's illegal to give it to a child. It's illegal to have it in a park or use it in a public place. All those things remain illegal, and every cannabis dispensary that is allowed to open in Worthington and in Nobles County, those laws that you've tasked me, my office, with enforcing become harder and harder for us to enforce. Not to mention the issue of impaired driving. And so I don't often come before you. I don't consider, I don't try to involve myself in any of your policy discussions, and by me appearing today, I certainly don't intend to tell you what to do. But I just wanted to provide helpful information as the office that you've all entrusted to keep the people of Worthington safe, and to let you know my opinion on how this and other future cannabis dispensaries would weigh in that job. In my opinion, is that further cannabis dispensaries would make that job harder to do, not easier. So, thank you for inviting me up once again. I thought it was a public hearing. But if any of you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, thank you for your time.
Does anybody have anything for Bree? Steve?
Is there a detection system based on some amount in someone's system that legally constitutes being impaired?
For THC, no.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was just,
Yeah.
You talking a field test? Or
even a,
Doesn't matter
blood
for a
test.
field test or even, so to compare it to alcohol, which is obviously the natural comparison, under Minnesota law, there's multiple ways that I can convict someone of driving while impaired under the influence of alcohol. The first is to prove that they're impaired, that is to say that it negatively affected their ability to drive, which can sometimes be obvious and other times not so obvious. The second way is if they're over 0.08 blood alcohol level of alcohol in their blood. And that oftentimes there's a PBT, so that's what the officer will do roadside to determine if the person should even be arrested. And then they're taken back to the jail, and then one of two things happens. There's a DMT, or data master test, which is another machine that you blow into, and that's the ultimate machine that decides what the breath alcohol level is. And there's another way, and that's through a search warrant, either to get the person's blood or their urine, and then that gets sent up to the BCA, and the BCA will run tests and determine the exact amount of alcohol in the person's system. None of that exists for THC. There is no roadside test for THC impairment. You can do a search warrant. You can do a search warrant for their blood or urine, but when that gets sent to the BCA can tell you this is how many nanograms per milliliter of tetrahydrocannabinol is in this person's blood. But what does that actually mean? And that's why I said, there's no scientifically accepted amount, unlike with alcohol. There's no scientifically accepted cutoff amount for what constitutes an impairment for a non-impairment. So as I said, the way that we prosecute people for cannabis DWI is after an accident. And then we say they were impaired, and we use the fact that they hit somebody or something as evidence of the fact that they were impaired, and that's really all we have to go by. And that's hard to do. That's why cannabis DWIs are the toughest DWIs to prosecute generally. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any more questions for
I'm the applicant, so I know it's not a public hearing. I didn't know whether there was an opportunity for me to try to address some of the concerns or not. That's,
Yep, come on up.
I apologize. My name is Roy Nielsen. I'm the owner of, one of the owners of MB2A. The other is my nephew. Something he's interested in getting into, being an entrepreneur and looking at getting into, business with me. Yes, the reason I chose that location is for traffic. It's not BS anybody. There's a lot of traffic there, similarly to other sites in town. Former Jimmy John's has a lot of traffic, out by Walmart, there's a lot of traffic. There's more kids probably traveling by those locations than will be going by the location there. I understand your concerns with addressing kids and I've got grandkids, I got nieces and nephews, so I mean, it's a very real thing to me, and I don't condone, minor use of those products. I don't condone the use of alcohol, I don't condone the use of tobacco either if they're underage. We try to do everything right. For me, part of why I'm looking at it is that I probably have, probably less concerns about me and cannabis than what, a lot of the kids, from 5-year-old to high school, what they're seeing on their TikTok screen, video feeds, what they're seeing on their Instagram. For me, there's much more concerning, issues there than where my store is going to be located. We try to adhere by, all the setbacks that there's some municipalities to address his concern, they have no caps, besides what Worthington was talking about. Other communities, is Moorhead what we're pursuing. We're also pursuing Perham, Minnesota, much smaller community than this one, and there isn't any cap. Also, the municipalities have as long as they don't exceed state statute, they can reduce it to whatever number that they want it to be. Moorhead is one that there's no setbacks, period. Whether it's school, whether it's other dispensaries, so I don't know that I necessarily support that. We're in a regulated industry, and we should be. I'm not going to lie about that. This has to be a regulated product. I wanted to try to address your concerns. I wanted to show you what type of community, what I'm bringing to the community. That's why I put together the folder showing the things that we've done, not only in our community, but it's also the communities that we're in, but also the ones that we want to be in. Once we become part of this community, it becomes our community. We want to make sure that we do things and try to give back to it. I have a long history of it. It's not something that I want to go through the litany of that, but my businesses, and I've owned multiples of them, have been awarded numerous awards, from humanitarian to business awards. We've been recognized by the state of Iowa, where one of my businesses were, for being a top 50 workplace, twice. We also were recognized by the Iowa National Guard with their Pro Patriot Award. So it's giving back and supporting the men and women that serve in our armed forces. So I understand the concern. I'm trying to figure out best ways to alleviate those concerns for you. One of the things we were doing is trying to make sure that we didn't have anything that was blatantly flashing, no cannabis leaves, that's going to be in broad, we're going to make sure we don't have a monument sign. Those were things that were brought up at the Planning and Zoning Committee, and those are things that, you know, that I support. Yeah, I'd like for you guys to, and gals, to look at, you know, voting for us and approve. I know the concern, I understand your hesitancy, but I'm trying to figure out what I can do to help assure you that I'm not, my business isn't to be the concern for you.
Anybody have any questions for?
I'm impressed with your application, I'm impressed with that. You know, if I could regulate against Walmart with kids going in and out, we can't.
Well, no, and you can't control all the people that drive by, and that's one of the things that you know, the concern is the traffic going by, that there is a park, that you're gonna be kids going by. More kids are going by Walmart. They're gonna see all these other stores that are gonna be probably more blatant about, the fact that they're a dispensary than what I'm agreeing to, you know, do for being in that location.
I understand you have another location in town.
I have, I have both properties there on that corner, yes.
Okay. And no other.
I have another location is in town here, but I have other plans for that. Working with a local realtor for renting that one out.
Anybody else? Okay.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity, I appreciate it all.
Okay.
So you're, Matt, it was brought up that there's the lot where the old gas station was, that city owned. You know, to me, that's all considered part of the complex, though. You know, the JBS Fieldhouse, you know, and so I guess I don't understand, you know, why would we wait, you know?
I suppose, you know, if you have concerns or feel that, you know, maybe we aren't defining that correctly under statute, you could certainly table this and we could seek legal counsel on that. And, you know, I hope we are interpreting it correctly, and I apologize if it comes back as
So
we
would
were.
the city ever sell that lot for someone to develop a business on? I wouldn't think it would, but maybe.
I guess I would say never say never, but with the bike trail there, it's gonna leave very limited space.
Yeah, so it can't really be used for business anyway, so to me, again, looks to me like it's part of the whole JBS complex. The other thing, and this is not a criticism of the past administrations or past councils, but I would really like to revisit the number of businesses we would allow. You know, we don't know what their demographics, we don't know what the demand is out of Iowa. We're on the interstate. I just think, you know, there could be a gamble. You know, and I remember one of the last meetings, someone asked how many more businesses we could have in this town based on our buffers and things like that. You mentioned one. Well, this is one. But what about the whole belt line from Blue Line all the way around to KZ, or even the easternmost part of Oxford Street? There could be a lot more businesses. You know, I would really like to ask for a reconsideration of the number of cannabis businesses we're gonna allow in this town. And maybe after they all open up, everybody will close except for one or two, but you don't know. It's a gamble. And do we need to take that gamble? You know?
Well, what we don't know, the city has issued 4 conditional use permits. That's only one step each of these businesses have to achieve prior to getting their approval and license from the state and registered with the city. We don't know what the real intention of those 4 applicants were, or what may actually come to fruition from each of those 4. So,
I can tell you as of today, only one other applicant that we've approved a conditional use permit for has taken any steps to start preparing the building for the business. The other 3, I'm not sure where they're at in the process, but nothing's been done to the buildings themselves to start preparing them for a new business.
Is there a time constraint on it?
No, conditional use permits stay with the property, which might get a little bit of a headache to monitor in regards to our 1,000-foot buffer between them, but that's something we'll deal with as it comes. You know, I suppose if council wants to reconsider that, that'd be your right to direct us to do so.
I'd like to revisit the ordinance, the buffers. I mean, it seems like it's a lot easier to loosen them up if we decide that, hey, these businesses really aren't the big problem that people thought they were gonna be, but public safety has, you know, police department has indicated it's difficult. Now we have an attorney that's indicated it's kinda difficult from a public safety perspective. It's a lot easier to open it up again or change to be looser rather than adhering to more restrictive requirements right now. I'm just saying, if it was 500 feet, why did we go? I wasn't on the council when we first visited it, so I don't know why the discussion went this way, but why wouldn't we do 500 feet, and why wouldn't we have limited to 2 for our population size? I guess that's the things that if we revisited it, I would ask. You know, because let's just say we keep going and we can have 12 of them in town, and it's a real problem. Not because of somebody like Roy's, maybe, but other bad players. Do you know what I'm saying? So.
I know Mankato limited theirs to 4, and that's their minimum. And I think Anoka went with 2. They're planning on having municipal of their own anyways, and one other one. I think Albert Lee had something else in place too. I know there was some conflict about one of their dispensary.
yeah,
having it.
They got sued.
Yeah.
and if the city had their own municipal store, that does not count
Towards
towards the minimum number.
So
yeah.
is there an opportunity to revisit or how does that work? Is that a special session or is?
I think regarding the business before us tonight, council can deny the conditional use permit, in which case each member that votes no has to have a stated reason for denying it. It could be set aside for a future date, and I would ask that if you want to go that route, that I think we need to look at the legal implications of whatever steps the city might take, or what options we may have. And so I would not, if you're gonna lay it aside, I would not lay it aside till the next meeting, because we can't guarantee that we would have a full legal opinion in 2 weeks. I would say that action should be laid aside until staff obtains the information that is necessary to advise council at a future meeting.
Matt, what kind of time constraints are there in regards to a conditional use permit?
60 days with an option, we could take a 60-day extension on the request if we need to.
Does the
We're
60
probably 30-ish days into it. I'll have to double check the actual application date though.
Matt, if we request a 60-day extension, does the applicant have to agree to that extension, or is that an extension that we can
No, if we have reasoning to do so, we can take the 60-day extension on the request.
Okay.
And we might not even need it depending on when you table it too.
Do we have to table it?
I don't,
Hmm?
Do we have to table it?
I don't think we have to take it, but you can certainly take action if you want.
If you want, you should table it if you want legal counsel.
Yeah, if you want legal action, you need to lay it aside till.
I just think it's incompatible with the adjacent land uses. It doesn't regard, my reasoning is that alone. It doesn't, I don't care if it's 500, 700, but the adjacent land uses that it's alongside are not compatible with a dispensary.
And that's my whole premise on this. I don't understand why we should table it.
Okay.
I would make a motion to deny the request.
One second,
We have a motion and seconded.
Need my-
I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Okay, can we roll call vote?
So just to clarify, if we're in favor of denying, we vote aye.
Yes. it's-
All those in
it's-
favor, I mean, you would say yes, I'm in favor of the vote.
All in favor of
If
the
you're-
denial.
Okay.
If you're voting to deny, you have to give me the reason.
Yep.
Okay.
That's why we're gonna do a roll call.
Okay.
So Amy,
I vote to deny. And, because it's not compatible with surrounding land uses due to the JPS field house being frequented by minors, due to the safe routes to school, path, and to parks within a block.
Mike?
I vote aye. It's not compatible with the land use, surrounding the zone, the parks, JBS field house, and, trail system in Worthington.
Chris?
I vote aye, due to the incompatibility with the adjacent land uses and in addition with the public health and public safety, the general welfare of that, of the community.
Okay. Amy?
Aye, incompatibility with adjacent land uses.
Okay.
Aye, the compatibility with the land use and I think the buffer zone, the street zone between the property lines.
Okay, okay. We have 5 for the no votes and no. Yes.
5 in favor of denying the conditional use.
Yeah, we're agreeing, yeah.
Yes.
That is correct.
5-0 on that action.
Okay. Other than that?
All right, moving on then. Next item, this is a text amendment regarding off-premise signs. City staff has seen a significant interest in off-premise signs, or typically known as billboards recently, and particular digital ones. The interest comes from advertising companies who seek out long-term leases with property owners for billboards. This interest is focused away from Interstate 90 and towards the interior of the city. Off-premise signs are distracting to drivers and have a significant impact on the character of the areas they're located. And once they are installed, they're rarely ever removed. Staff has prepared an ordinance shown in Exhibit 4A that would prohibit off-premise signs and off-premise signs with digital faces. Any existing off-premise signs would be grandfathered in, but would not be allowed to change to digital faces. At its October 7th meeting, the City Planning Commission held a public hearing and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed ordinance. Should council concur with the findings of the Planning Commission, they may approve a first reading of the ordinance shown in Exhibit 4A. The other thing I'll say about this, we obviously are in the process right now of working with the consultant to redo our entire zoning ordinance. I don't necessarily anticipate that we would continue to outright prohibit off-premise signs once we're done with that, but this would kind of give us some more time to better consider how to regulate them differently, especially in conjunction with our entire sign ordinance, as that will be, or is part of what we're reviewing with that project. So yeah, with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, Mike?
I'm glad to hear that, Matt. I was gonna play the devil's advocate on this. know there's at least a couple of those right now where, you know, insurance companies, where they don't necessarily have the room or the infrastructure to put up a big billboard. I can see it, fully see it, you know, in the interior of Worthington. But when you get closer to the interstate or closer to the highways, you know, I just don't wanna deny the opportunity for some of our businesses to take care of their, marketing, is what I was thinking about. But, you know, if it's something that can be looked at down the road, that would be good. I'm glad to hear that, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we don't wanna go through a lot of time and effort to work through a text amendment right now, and we're kinda already looking at it in a grander context. But this would allow us to kinda take a step back without approving new ones to really consider how to better regulate them, or figure out how to regulate them to locations that make more sense, things of that nature.
Amy?
Is there any way to enforce the removal of signs? You said a lot of signs are never removed. Is there any way to
No,
enforce that?
if they were approved, you know, at the time of construction, unless unless a tornado hits, then you can typically place some reasonable conditions, but even then, most of the time, they can put back what was there.
I was thinking you meant signs that no longer served a purpose.
No, this would be your typical billboard where they come in, they take a 80-year lease on it, and it hasn't been business owners that have really been asking for this. It's advertising companies that look at a map and they pick out 10 properties and they go approach all of them and see what sticks.
I noticed on a couple of them, one had Lamar, which must be a big billboard.
Yeah, that's a big nationwide one, yeah.
But it had local business on it.
Yeah. Yeah, they do change faces here and there as they, cycle through different advertisements and things, and there certainly is an advertising component for local businesses, of course, and we want to provide that opportunity, but, we really want the opportunity to not approve any for a little bit while we consider maybe how to better regulate them within the context of a newer sign ordinance overall.
So are you asking to continue with the text amendment or to hold off?
Yeah,
You want to
continue
do the
with the current text amendment, and you'll just know that our entire sign ordinance will come back in a different form probably within a year.
So the text amendment is really to prohibit right now.
Yeah, it's not an interim one the way I wrote this, but that's our intent, is that it will kind of function in the interim.
Move to approve first reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried.
Alright, so these next three items all deal with low potency hemp edibles. So these are products that are on the shelf today. Our own liquor store sells them. Back when they were first legalized, they were done so under essentially a certain group of statutes under state law. When the state then approved legalized recreational cannabis, they also took those lower potency hemp edible products and moved them into this new group of statutes. And the main change that brought along with it was different licensing requirements. In particular, retailers that sell these products now will have to obtain a local retail registration. So along with that, now we have to put our requirements in place to make sure that we can take care of that. They built in essentially a grace period into this for existing retailers, and we're now hitting that point where they're gonna need to renew them, they're gonna need local retail registrations now. So the first item, this is a text amendment. This is for the zoning requirements for low potency hemp edible sales. Exhibit 5A is an ordinance establishing which zoning districts permit the sale of lower potency hemp edible products. As proposed, this will be permitted in all commercial districts. At its October 7th meeting, the City Planning Commission held a public hearing and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed ordinance. Should council concur, they may approve a first reading of the ordinance in Exhibit 5A.
The area where they can be, where that product can be sold, has that changed?
No, we essentially tried to make this as painless as possible for places that are already selling these products by not really getting too restrictive or anything of that nature with it. We haven't heard any concerns with these products being on the shelf in stores or anything like that, so.
Is there an age limit to purchasing?
Yes, I believe you have to be 21 to purchase those.
So does that fall under the state's 15% tax base too?
Yes,
then?
well, I believe it does. I know taxes are quite high on that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, we have a motion?
Second.
No, we don't have.
No, we don't have a
need
motion. Asking for.
Move first reading.
Okay, we have a motion and then seconded, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried.
Alright, moving on then, number 6, this is another text amendment. This is also dealing with low potency hemp edibles. This text amendment and this ordinance shown in Exhibit 6A, this basically deals with everything that didn't need to go to planning commission, so all your non-zoning requirements. You'll see in there, it essentially lays out the process for our local registration of them, which follows cannabis businesses generally as well. The definitions were already in our ordinance, so there's not a lot to it. But yeah, council is asked to approve a first reading of that ordinance shown in Exhibit 6A.
Motion to approve first reading of the ordinance shown in
Okay.
Exhibit
Okay,
6A.
motion and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried.
Alright, last item then, this is the fees to go along with that registration of these low potency hemp edible retailers. Proposed fees are as follows: the initial registration at $125 and the annual renewal at $125. These are the maximum you can charge under state statute. And the proposed resolution would also exempt the municipal liquor store from the fees, just so we don't have to deal with transferring money around internally for this. Council is asked to approve the proposed fees by passing the resolution shown in Exhibit 7A.
So moved.
Second.
Steve, I have a question. Do we have, is this a January 1 to December 31 period? Have you guys discussed that at all, or is it 12 months annual from the date you seek registration?
They're starting to,
The open enrollment's open.
yeah.
It's open enrollment, so it's whatever date they.
Yeah,
I think it opened on the 1st,
yeah,
Oh.
October.
October.
Okay.
We'll
For the
verify that,
state.
but it is an annual thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we have to track renewals and they're all,
Yeah. We would handle them just like we do our liquor, our off sale and on sale.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion by Amy and seconded by Mike. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, on to main reports, have nothing other than went to Cuero and, paycheck came out in winter and, very good time, the host Cuero Texans are quite gracious, they catered to us pretty regular anyway, so they're nice people, but there was, I know at least over 40 of us down there anyways, so we got bussed around, we were at the Baymont anyway, so it's close by, so it's pretty handy, but, Paycheck made its rounds anyways, carried some kids anyways, but, I wasn't part of that group, but anyways, there were stories anyways, so. Amy?
No report.
Never.